Hello everyone, I have a pretty awesome deck here. This is Ali Entrazi's 5-color brew. It's basically a 5-color ramp deck, and he has played this deck in 2 tournaments now. Grand Prix Charleston, where he got top 16, and SCG Baltimore, where he finished 3rd. So he's put up some pretty good results with this deck, and despite looking like a complete pile, it actually is a really good deck. So this is what I'm playing today, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the cards here. Start out with the mana base. I don't know how to describe this mana base other than saying it's basically just a complete work of art. You have about one of every single land in Standard over here, except basics, because you don't need any of those. But there's just so many different lands here, and one of the things about this is, like, with Farseek in the deck, you can use Farseek to fetch out like some of these special lands. Like you can get your Steam Vents, your One of Blood Crypt, you can like use and like your One of Hallowed Fountain. Farseek just does a great job of letting you get all your colors of mana by like grabbing lands like that. And then we also have 4 colorless lands in our 5-color deck that plays cards like Nicol Bolas and Garruk Primal Hunter. So the mana is pretty crazy, but Cavern of Souls is really good. It's really key for making sure you resolve like a Huntmaster or a Thragtusk against some of the blue-white decks. Those decks are capable of just basically countering everything you do, and it's pretty important that you have a way to stop them from being able to do that. And even though it hurts the mana a lot, Cavern is pretty key to this deck. You also have Alchemist's Refuge, which this was kind of the card of the cycle that no one liked, but it's actually really good, surprisingly so. It lets you do things like end of turn Supreme Verdict on their turn, or like during their combat step, or you can play an instant speed Thragtusk to block their guy. There's a lot you can do with it. And then Kessig Wolfrun is just a good finisher with cards like Huntmaster and Thragtusk, and especially Gisela. Just wrecks with Gisela. So that's the mana base. We have 4 Farseek and 3 Chromatic Lantern to help get us our colors of mana and also ramp us into some of these bigger spells. Talk a little bit about the removal here. There's 2 Curse of Death's Hold. This card is actually very good in the format right now because of the black-red zombie Rakdos deck. Curse shuts out Falconwrath Aristocrat and Gravecrawler and Knight of Infamy. It's very key at cutting those creatures out, and since those creatures are all very powerful against you, like Curse does a ton of work. Supreme Verdict, just a Wrath, basically. Pretty standard in a deck like this to be playing Wrath effects to make sure you can buy yourself time. Ultimate Price, Attention Sphere, and Abrupt Decay are just a couple of like spot removal spells to again buy us a little time. And the nice thing about them is you can do something like play a Farseek and an Ultimate Price on the same turn. Creature base, we have Huntmaster and Thragtusk and Gisela. Huntmaster and Thragtusk both basically do the same thing, which is gain you life and kind of stall the ground, like control the board. And they each have like pros and cons to them, but both are very powerful at what they do. And these are kind of the key to the deck. This is what makes the deck survive, to let your like late game stuff come online. And then Gisela is, if your opponent can't remove Gisela, they basically can't win the game. So they have to have a removal spell for her because it's impressive how much damage she prevents. Beyond that, we have 4 Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls are really good at, again, buying you time, but they also serve as great offensive threats with Kessig Wolfrun. So they kind of do both, double duty there. We have a Garruk Primal Hunter and a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. Garruk is, in my opinion, the best Planeswalker in Standard right now, and it's worth playing 1 as he's basically just a draw 5 with a Thragtusk in play, which is really good for 5 mana. But he can also take over a game if you can land him on an empty board. And then old Nasty Bolasty is up in here for just an endgame that goes over the top of the other control decks. And then the last cards we have are Sphinx's Revelation, which in my opinion is the best card in Standard. It just takes over a game. If you can cast this for like a big X, you almost never lose the game. And, just with a standard format like we have now, you often have time to cast Sphinx's Revelation, and it just is so backbreaking when you do. And then Rakdos Return is a Miser's One of. This is just a good card against a variety of decks, like any of the blue-white decks. any of the control decks, it's worth having this in your deck somewhere to give you game in game one before you move to board. But this is the main deck here. I'm going to talk a bit about the sideboard. So here's the sideboard. We have a variety of some pretty sweet cards in here, if I say so myself. First up is Rock's Faithmender and Centaur Healer, and these both are basically just serve to gain you life. They're really powerful cards against the aggressive decks, mostly just black-red. Rock's Faithmender is also really good against green-white. Centaur Healer less so because it doesn't really trade that well. But still, both these cards just buy you so much time against those decks, along with Huntmaster and Thragtusk. And Rock's Faithmender is kind of one of the breakout cards right now. And he is, let me tell you this, he is amazing in doubles because you will get quadruple the life gain. He is also amazing with Kessig Wolf Run because you will gain a significant amount of life if you can Wolf Run a Faithmender. So he's very good. We have a Door to Nothingness, which is really sweet. And especially when you can Alchemist Refuge it on your opponent's turn. But this is for like a control matchup that goes really long. You can surprise them with a door that they may not have an answer for. They may be forced to open the door, unfortunately. 2 Slaughter Games. This is a new edition. These are for Sphinx's Revelation. Is essentially the only card that Slaughter Games is for. And it can come into maybe in a few other matchups where you want to hit some problem cards. But like the Craterhoof deck, you might want to hit their Craterhoofs. But mainly it's just for Sphinx's Revelation. And Rest in Peace is for, there's a multitude of Reanimator decks and it's good against those. Tragic Slip is kind of gaining some traction in Standard right now. It's a very good removal spell for Falconwrath Aristocrat because there's no way they can prevent that Aristocrat from dying to a Tragic Slip. If they sacrifice a creature if they sacrifice a human to put a +1/+1 counter on it, it doesn't matter because Morbid has been triggered, so it gets -13, -13. So Tragic Slip is basically great against that deck, and that's the reason it's here in the board. And then we have a Jace Memory Adept again for a control deck, just to mill them out. It's a very good threat there. And then 3 Duresses, again, for blue-white decks and control decks. Those are some of the harder matchups, and Duress really lets you gain an edge. You can strip an important card from their hand. Usually the best way to play Duress is you want to play it the same turn you want to resolve a big threat, and you want to strip their counterspell, then resolve your big threat. But this is the sideboard, and this is the sweet 5-color ramp deck, so I basically can't wait to play it, so hopefully the games are good.